Yeah, hi, this is Ashwin, and today we're going to be looking at a scenario where you need to select the right cloud solution strategy. Now, it could be you doing it for your company, or else you could be hired by an XYZ company as a cloud solutions architect or maybe a cloud solution strategist. So let's take a look at this. Okay, let's take a look at what are we going to discuss today. We start by evaluating the decision to move to the cloud. Then we review the readiness. Then we try to understand the constraints that you will come across. Then we identify all the risks involved. Then we understand the financial objectives and how we're going to mobilize the workforce. And then we create an operational plan and we work with the data to discover the progress of the strategy. Okay, let's take a look at the evaluation stage. Here, we will try to scan the direction of the cloud strategy. Basically, we are trying to evaluate the decision to move to the cloud. Here, we should try to find answers for some of the questions, like what is the plan for the strategic direction? What motivated to design a cloud strategy? What is the perceived benefits in creating a selected strategy? Now, what business outcome do we need to make if you want to make an impact on this? And what are the original motives, benefits, and expected outcome planned from this cloud strategy? Now, the next stage is we review. Here we will try to review our readiness to move to the cloud. And here we should try to find answers to some of the questions. What is the level of senior management buy-in in rolling out the cloud strategy? What is your role in this particular strategy? Now that means, are you the user of the cloud solutions or are you going to be the cloud solutions provider? Now, what are the business units that are currently ready for the cloud? And next question that you need to understand is, did you identify any pilot business unit or a project? Basically, you're looking for some low-hanging fruits or any early wins here. Now, do we have an enterprise-wide consolidated application list and its usage? Now, what is the existing split of data that is basically between on-prem storage and the cloud storage? Now, this is going to help you get an understanding of your current situation. Now, the next is understanding the constraints. Here we will try to understand the constraint, which basically means we need to ensure that we have a good hold on all the constraints that we may come across. And here also, we may try to find answers to some of the questions. The one is, do you have a good understanding on your business, regulatory, and compliance obligations? Now, what is the nature of information that you are trying to store? Is it confidential or public records or sensitive data? Now, who is the owner of the data that is sitting on these servers? Now, understand what are your customer expectations and also try to look at your DR and BCP policies and whether they are capable to take advantage of cloud technologies. Now you need to understand whether you have discussed and cleared your plan with the legal team. Now that you would have understood the constraints, let's take a look at the risk involved. Here we will try to understand or identify all the risk. Basically, try to assess the execution risk involved. And here also we'll try to find answers to some of the questions. One is, do we have business commitment from the financial and the human resource approvers? And is the architecture of your existing application ready for cloud computing? And what are the contractual obligations with the existing softwares and hardware vendor? And we need to understand that did we fully understand the time and the resources required for this change management. Now, you need to ensure that whatever risk that is identified is properly documented. Now that you have evaluated the strategy, we have looked into the review of the infrastructure, we have looked at the constraints and the risk involved. It is time to talk finance because money matters. Now, here we can try to find answers to some of the questions. That is, what are your financial objectives? What is the cost optimization promise of the cloud strategy? And how are we expecting additional revenue by using cloud technology? Now, what is the cost of the workforce restructuring? And this is very important to take a look at. And how are we going to finance this particular initiative? And we need to look at the implication and perception of this particular strategy on investors and the shareholders. Now, if you have answers to this, you should have a very good support of the finance team. Now let's move to the next one. Now we are going to look at human resource. Now here we need to understand one thing. We will only succeed by including everyone. So basically we are trying to mobilize the human resource. And again, we are trying to find answers to some questions here. Now, how will the future workforce perceive the company as an employer after moving to the cloud? Now, how soon can we acquire the skills to realize the stated business objective in a timely manner? And what are the objectives or options available to meet the skill requirements? And what happens to the existing role which becomes obsolete? And how are you planning to reskill them? Now, this is very important because this is the workforce of the company and we need to ensure that we have a proper plan on this. Now, the next is looking to refine your operational plan. Here, let's try to find answers to some of the questions. What are the additional benefits that will be available to business users by replacing the existing application with cloud-based solution? Now, do we also understand the effort involved in actually transforming the existing application to take advantage of the cloud technologies? Also, we need to take a note of what did we learn from the pilot project and the early wins we looked into. Now, this is going to ensure that we have a smooth operations involved. So for any project to be successful, you should have a fair amount of understanding on the key performance indicators to understand whether this project is a success. Now, we have actually understood many of the existing factors involved, like we evaluated what is the cloud strategy, we reviewed the infrastructure involved, we looked at the constraint, we looked at the risk involved, we looked at finance, human resource, and the operation part of things. Now, it is important to ensure that you have a list of KPIs. Now, if there isn't a KPI, make sure we have certain action plans in place. Now, if there is a KPI, as I mentioned, identify and document them. Now, what is your measurement to show the progress is also very important. Now, we need to ensure that we have identified a data collection methodology to ensure that the execution efficiencies are looked into. Alright, so in this video, we looked at evaluating a cloud strategy, looked into the constraints, risk, finance, human resource, and operations part of it, and also looked into the key performance indicators of such a project. Alright, thank you very much for your time. Let's catch up in a different video.